Good evening. I'd like to call a meeting to order. This is the Wednesday, May 8th, 2019 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. We have new business first on our agenda, and the first order of business is a request for a determination of applicability by Renaissance on the River Condominium Association, care of Greater North Property Management. The project location, 52 Lawrence Drive and 35 River Walkway. It's a request made by T&K Asphalt Services on behalf of the Renaissance on the River Condominium Association to remove and replace existing concrete walks, curb, and stairs at the two locations, 52 Lawrence Drive, 35 River Walkway. The project is within bordering land subject to flooding and the 100-foot buffer zone of the Merrimack River. We have someone here to talk about this project?
So to my knowledge, they were supposed to be here tonight. I'm not sure where they are or what has happened. I wasn't contacted otherwise.
Okay. Is there a likelihood that someone will
I think,
to present,
yeah, my intention was that someone was going to stop by, so I'm not sure.
Okay, let's put this aside for now and move on to our next order of new business, which is also a request for determination of applicability, put in by the Mount Pleasant Golf Club, 141 Staples Street. The location is at the golf club, and a request has been made to install a new irrigation system within the golf course at 141 Staples Street. The project is within bank, riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding, land underwater, and the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands of the Black Brook. A little bit of everything here, huh?
Yeah, it's a potpourri for sure. My name is Jerry Foley, I'm a member of the Golf Club.
Can you grab a microphone, please?
I was instructed to do so.
Push the button and...
Does that work?
Very good, yeah.
As we stated in our scope here, we've got an antiquated system. It was put in right around 1960. It's old technology, which basically utilizes one single pipe going up the middle of each fairway and with a sprinkler head attached right to it. We have made modifications to that system up on the hill, away from the wetlands, which is up in this area up here. There's a pretty big escarpment that goes up. It's about a 40 foot change in elevation. We go to the high part of the golf course. Then it drops down to this low spot. So we have made modifications to it up there in the past. We still want to replace that. That's pretty old stuff as well. We've just been doing so many repairs over the years. You know, it just keeps getting worse and worse, and it seems like we're constantly digging up and fixing the pipe. The existing pipe is asbestos cement pipe, which kind of tells you how old it is. And the club finally wants to bite the bullet and get it done. So, as you stated, the main wetland feature of this project is the Black Brook, which bisects the course almost in half. And so we have running water, we have a brook, we have two ponds. These are man-made ponds. One was done in the early 80s, and the one on the right here, and the one on the left was done in the late 60s, I believe, in the irrigation ponds. So what we do currently for irrigation, there's a pump house right down here near the ponds, and we draw water out of the ponds and use that to irrigate the golf course. It's supplemented on an as-needed basis. If we ever have issues with getting enough groundwater to keep the ponds filled, we have a main that comes from the city of Lowell up here off of Wilbur Street, and that comes down right through the top of the course, down the hill, and ties into the pump house. So we have a backup system right now. We want to continue to keep that in place, but we think that with this new system, we'll probably never have to use it. But it's just a transfer line that, should we need it for whatever reason, we know it's available to us. Associated with the Black Brook, we have a 25-foot riparian zone. The banks are very well defined there if anybody's taken a walk out that way. and we also have a floodway, and we have a floodplain zone. So this shaded in area here is the approximate location of the floodplain zone on the property. And it does flood on occasion. We haven't seen it reach this proportion, but we do get periodic small floods. It usually lasts half a day to a day, and then it recedes. You know, if we happen to get a real wet time and a good rainstorm. So everything that you see this golf course is pretty much manicured. There are some wetlands down in this neck of the woods right here, mostly off our property, but they are within 100 feet of some of the minor work that we're proposing to do down near the number 4 tee. The new system will be what they call a two-pipe system. And what it does, it gives us some redundancy, so it gives us more coverage as well. So instead of running a pipeline down the center of the fairway, we would run 2 pipelines down either side. What that does is it allows us to go with smaller sprinkler heads, but we can reach more terrain that way. Right now, the area was identified as the rough between 2 parallel fairways. It doesn't get sprinkled. It doesn't get water from irrigation. So Mother Nature takes care of that as best it can. So with this new system, we'll be able to reach those portions of the golf course and keep it greener. Also, if we ever have to shut down or do a repair or replacement, because everything will be looped, we'll be able to work on a single head and get it fixed and still be able to keep the rest of the golf course up and functioning. Right now, if we have a situation like that, we just have to shut the main down and go work on it and then go back and try to fix it. The other advantage to the new system is that it's crazy how far this has come, but each sprinkler head has its own IP address. So the superintendent, for all practical purposes, could be at his home in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and decide that he wants to hit one of the tees with 15 minutes of water and get on his iPhone and make it happen. So all in all, at the end of the day, we actually would probably use less water now. Less water with the new system than we do now, because the system that we have now allows us only to drench a whole zone, which is pretty encompassing. In terms of how the new pipe gets installed, we sent you a couple of a description of how that happens and some photographs. And I think I don't know if you were able to get those videos that we sent along earlier, but we did send some videos. It's pretty innovative stuff. The 4-inch mains will all be high-density polyethylene pipe, and they put those together in 40-foot sections, and they do a fused joint. They basically have a coupling that they heat, and so they can connect them all together in the field above ground. They're going to dig the trench with a 12-inch bucket. We go down 30 inches. As we designated in the request for determination applicability form, what we propose to do is have stockpile the spoil on the uphill side, so that if for any reason we happen to get an emergency, a situation where we get hit with a thunderstorm, let's say, anything that would happen to hit the spoil would wash back into the trench. So they can do 40 feet they'll be connecting they're 40-foot lengths of pipe. They'll be connecting them in long strips. They'll prepare the hole and then just drop them in and keep on going. They can do, on the mains, they can do 700 to 1,000 linear feet per day. The laterals are the smaller pipes, which are going to be 2-inch and 3-inch. They're going to pull those with, they don't call it a ditch witch, I forget what they call it, but basically it's the attachment on the end of a machine, and it goes subterranean down 30 inches, and it connects the pipe, and it vibrates and pulls it through. And what it does, I can just show you here. That's not it. So you can see right here, they basically just make a seam in the grass. And worst case scenario is they hit a rock or something and it pops up kind of like this. And then they just go back and tamp it back down. But there's basically no spoil, there's no siltation, there's no even opportunity for any of that stuff. It only goes down 30 inches. With respect to the trench excavation, which is shown up here, we're going to sod that trench at the end of the day. So at the end of the workday, it's going to look like this. We're not going to use seed and water it. We're going to sod it all. So we're expecting that as far as any disturbance to the wetland, the buffer zones, or anything like that. It should be minimal. We have no intention to change the grades as a result of this project, so it's pretty straightforward.
So, do you have erosion control planned along the brook?
Yeah, we saw that note from the engineers. We thought that it would be better if we put the erosion control adjacent to the trench, because in some of these cases, the trench could be a significant distance from the brook, and, you know.
And then move it along day to day, or?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we'll basically be moving it, you know, 700 to 1,000 feet a day. But, you know, just define where we're gonna be that day, and make sure we have the erosion controls in place, and then pick them up and move. We'll just use the straw wattles, because they're easy to work with.
So you're expecting the soils out there are pretty much alluvial and you won't hit much rock?
We expect to hit rock on the holes that are outside the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, actually, on the higher elevations on this side, up near holes 1 and 2. The ledge does pop up there a little bit, and we have hit some rocks in the past, but down, if you look at the soil maps that we sent, you'll see that that's there and up on the hill. The hill is it's just all sand and gravel. It's just pure sand and gravel on top of the hill. So yeah, we expect your typical sandy material as a result of outwash for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. The ponds that you have there, do they draw their water from the Black Brook?
Yes.
Or is it stormwater as well, I suppose?
Yeah, it's basically, it intercepts the water table.
Oh.
So Black Brook is this section of it it initiates in Chelmsford, actually. It's on the other side of Route 3, and there's a big wetland down near Smith Street. And so that kind of feeds underneath Smith Street, then it cuts across 495. Then that feeds down to Old Canal Road, where there's another pond.
Right.
And then that pond, by way of perennial stream, connects to our ponds over, get this back up. So their pond's over in here, and there's associated wetland here and here, and then there's one thread that comes down through here, which is the thread of the Middlesex Canal. So, you know, back in the day, they cut the Middlesex Canal back through here along Route 3, but the actual thread of Black Brook came in this way, and the confluence is right here between the number 3 green and the number 4T. So the Black Brook itself, it comes over here, and that's when you really start to define the thread of the brook, and then it comes under here, and off it goes.
So will you be replacing or putting new pipes along the brook or into the pond somehow to get that water? Or are you using the old pipes in that area?
We're going to use new pipes in the same location. So right now, what we have bridges wherever it crosses, and the pipe comes up out of the ground and crosses above at the bridge elevation, and then back down into the ground. So the game plan is to disconnect those and put in new ones that will go above grade.
So, and the pump and everything is the same? You don't have to replace that?
We're gonna replace parts of the pump. We're not going to change the footprint of the pump house. We're just gonna go with variable speed drives on the pumps that we currently don't have.
And you're not taking down any trees or clearing out any brush or anything like that?
No. Every place we're going, there's already
Grass
growing there. Yeah, yeah. You know, the thought, putting a silt fence up along the brook, I didn't even mention that, because if we ever put up a silt fence along the brook, the golfers would want it there year-round, I think. Keep their ball from going in.
Well, you'd have to disturb the soils along there just to put the fence in, unless you used one of those, you know, everyone seems to be using the straw now.
But we think this can be a very neat, you know, daily installation, you know, open it up, put the pipe in, backfill, sod, move on type of operation.
How many days total?
We're looking to start at the beginning of August, and We're trying to tackle it in pairs, so we're trying to tackle the fairways that are close to each other at different times and work our way up the hill. So we're going to start at the top of the hill, then work our way down to the wetlands, and then over towards the high side over near Westview Avenue, go in that direction. So we expect to be done by the 3rd week of September. So we're trying to take advantage of going during the dry season as well. So we shouldn't have much issue with water table.
Any golfers here that have questions?
Do you have any contingency plans for heavy rain days? What's your thought as far as, flooding, thunderstorms?
We probably wouldn't, well, if we were expecting like a 2 or 3 day, storm, we just wouldn't work. For a couple of different reasons. The equipment just tears the golf course up. We're experiencing that right now, as a matter of fact. We put in some trees up in the upland area up here a couple of weeks ago, and it just made a mess, so, because we had so much rain. But in terms of like a flash, storm coming in the afternoon, yeah, we talked to contractors last night, and they understand that they'll have to have additional straw wattles or hay bales, whatever the commission prefers, on hand in the event that we need to contain something really quick. But I really think that if we keep that spoil on the uphill side, there'll be almost no chance of anything getting beyond that trench.
And the existing pipe, is it still asbestos cement in the areas where it crosses at the bridges?
No, they did modify those. They went to ductile iron, I think, in those locations.
Okay.
But they want to use high density polyethylene everywhere now.
So you'll be removing that entirely on both sides?
We plan to abandon the asbestos cement in place.
I meant the crossing specifically. Is there the areas that are directly adjacent to the brook?
The bridges, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just 90s up and 90s over.
So you would take that out entirely, I guess it would be. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You had said at the beginning that you had 2 pipes on either side of each fairway. That's one pipe on each.
Proposed, yes.
Yeah, proposed connection. Yep. Yes. Okay.
So if you can picture a rough, then the right side of a fairway, there'd be a main. Then the fairway, or the left side of the fairway, there'd be a main. Then the rough. And by coming off those 2 that are on the outside edges of the fairway, we're able to cover to the center of the fairway and to the center of the rough.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, I'm good.
So I just got a couple quick questions. Those ponds right now, are they fed by, when they were dug, that it was just a shallow water table and it pooled in, or is
Yes.
it any, okay.
Yep.
So it's kind of, I guess where I'm going with this is in terms of water resource management,
Mm-hmm.
are they always, full, do they dry out during the year?
I would say, I've never seen them dry, no. Yeah, they always have water.
They're obviously lower in the
Yeah.
dry, late summer months, I'm betting.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And it sounds like from, what I've been reading and just hearing you say too, that this is the new system will allow for a much more efficient delivery of water,
Yes,
which should make the
Yeah.
situation that much better,
it
right?
should.
Okay, that's it, thanks.
Mhm.
I would think that it might be a good idea to leave erosion control in place in those areas of the bridge crossings for an
Okay.
extended period of time.
Yep.
Until that area is stabilized. Is there any asbestos removal? It'll be.
Everything that's asbestos right now is 30 inches down.
No, I don't have any problem with the leaving in place. I just wanted to make sure that if
No,
if you had
nothing's-
any in mind that a couple of target areas or anything that might have to be remediated, but that's fine.
Nope.
Just wondering. Yeah, I mean, I think that the bridge crossings are the most sensitive area here. The day-by-day plan seems to be effective, seems like the right thing to do. I don't know if we have any, do we have any idea of whether we prefer wattles or bales?
Generally, we prefer wattles, just because they're easy to manage and get rid of You know,
If you
once the
want to
project's
move
done.
them, the wattles are definitely the easier ones to move from my experience. So.
Then we'll prefer wattles then.
Okay,
I think you'll prefer them too.
yeah, they are easy to work with.
Right. You don't have to dig down into the ground. Anyone want to make comments or ask questions on this project? We have,
So hearing none, I'll offer a motion to issue a -3 determination for this project, because while it is, you know, within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, I don't see the impacts of the project being significant enough to warrant a notice of intent.
is there a
Second,
second? Any discussion?
do we want to put any conditions, or are we good with what we've said here? I think it's pretty well outlined in
I think
his
it's
notes.
fairly straightforward and well-designed and well-explained.
Do you want us to notify you when we get started?
Sure.
That'd be good.
Okay.
And I think, you know, I think your responses to the comments that you received from the city were great, so just adhere to them, and I think we're good.
Okay,
So vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
thanks very much for your time.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
You gonna be able to golf while you're doing that?
He's not going to be doing the work. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, I don't believe we have anyone here yet from Lawrence Drive, so we'll
Continue.
continue on with our business. I'm gonna jump two more other businesses that we'll take at the end, which are ongoing. And the next thing we'll take is 42 Wellman Street. There's an order of conditions on this property, and there's been a request for an amendment to the order. Huh.
Reggies.
They're stapled. You got another one there?
That's all right. I can look at yours. No worries.
I'm not sure if these were stapled over the same.
Yes, yeah.
Alright, so we're,
Well, that's only one.
Those are all the same.
No, these aren't the same.
Those are all the same.
Yeah.
beautiful letters,
Okay, letters.
and more margin. It's the same as, yeah, it's the same. So we only have three small plans,
Yeah,
so
so
you
no,
can
no,
keep the large one.
don't open the letters. Oh, so sorry.
There should be 2 copies of the large plan. Yeah, there's 2. Okay, excellent. My name is Roy Smith. I'm a site civil engineer for R.J. O'Connell and Associates. We have been the site civil engineers associated with this project since its inception. As was mentioned by the Conservation Commission, we do have an existing order of conditions on the property, and we are well underway under construction. We actually have the foundations in, the parking garage is in, and they're building the wood framing for the apartment units. To kind of give you a clue of where we are, this is the apartment complex here. This is the parking garage. This is Wellman Street. This is the site is the Lowe's, next door to the Lowe's, the existing Lowe's development, and then there's the Cross Point development down here at Industrial Ave in Lowell, Lowell, Lowe's Way. The site is currently under construction. We have an order of conditions in what the amendment is associated with this area, the northern part of the site. We previously approved this stone dust path going into this woods area. What we would like to do is, it's really it's a woods area, but it's in poor shape, and I can give you some photos as well to demonstrate that. But what we'd like to do is, the proponent of the project is SMC Corp. And what we'd really like to do is control dogs in this area. Instead of the dogs, if you recall correctly, this is a porous pavement all the way around for an emergency access only. So our feeling was that the residents of the apartment building would walk their dogs on that porous pavement, and then therefore it's uncontrolled, it's not mitigated. So what we felt we should do is, using that stone dust path, and if you look at that blow up, so the stone dust path is already actually in, or the frame of work of that. On the northern side of the plan north, we have a 20-foot wide sewer easement, and then we have the wetlands finger going to a pipe and then going to a larger wetland systems. Those wetlands flags have been hung by Lucas Environmental and the wetland scientist, and they're part of the current order of conditions. What we've done here is we propose to clear and grub and keep the existing large trees that are in good shape, in good working order, put a 4-foot chain link fence around this area, and then hydroseed it and grass it and make it a grass. So it's basically going from woods to a grass condition. We're not extending the stone dust path. We're not increasing impervious coverage. We're keeping it pervious to pervious. On the wetlands edge, some important aspects is we've kept a 25-foot no disturb buffer from the wetlands edge, both on the northern wetlands swale. It's more of a drainage swale, which is here, and then it goes into a pipe and then into this larger wetland system here. And a minimum of 25 feet, and then it flares out as you head plan east to 34 feet of undisturbed buffer. We've done the additional survey. Property keeps going back in. This is currently a woods condition, like I said, and going to grass. So we've run the drainage analysis, and what you can see, I think I gave you a peak flow table. We ran the 4 different storm events. I'll give you a chance to call that up. So we have, as part of the current order of conditions, we did a whole stormwater management analysis, and we analyzed the 4 storm events. As you can see, going from a woods and poor condition to grass and good condition is cover. Under the 100-year storm, it only raises the peak flow discharge by 0.1 CFS versus what was previously approved. And it's a significant reduction from the existing conditions that was on the site. If you recall, the existing conditions on site prior to the development was an open asphalt parking lot that just sheet flowed into the wetlands, unmitigated, untreated, so forth and so on. So that same drainage pattern is continuing, and we're decreasing peak rates of runoff and volumes in all 4 storm events. And a slight increase, which is less than 1% increase in all the different storms with this dog park area. We're willing to look at, if the commission so chooses, the trees to remain a little bit more. What I'd like to do is pass out some photos of the area. So this is the stone dust path, and then looking in. So that's the condition of the woods. As you can see, it's a lot of vines and scrub brush and not really mature trees. So we plan on keeping any tree over 8 inches, but removing the dead trees, the brush, the vines, so forth and so on, and just cleaning up the area and making it usable for the residents of the apartment complex. One thing that commissions always do with dog parks, or they have in the past, is SMC is advocates their residents to own pets. But what they do is they have a strict control program. So if you look at the cover letter that SMC prepared and submitted as part of the file, they actually, if you have a dog or a cat and you have to apply to the maintenance people on a date, and they actually take a sample of their thing and get a dog DNA, believe it or not. And then they go on as far as they have on-site 24 hours, 7 days a week, on-site maintenance personnel that do daily pickups of any dog feces. And then there's also some enforcement to that. So if a dog's resident gets caught once, they get actually a $150 fine, believe it or not, if they don't pick up their dog's feces. And they can track it back to that actual resident that owns that dog based on the DNA sample. And then if they get charged, they get caught again not picking up their feces, it's $200. And then they can, third offense, they take eviction notice. So they've really ran across this and are policing it per se from a dog management perspective. And they'd like to keep that all in this fenced-in area, hence the reason why we're in front of the commission tonight, trying to get this current open space and making it more usable for the residents of the apartment complex. I guess that's all I have at this point, and I'll be open to take any questions you may have.
In the letter, you talk about irrigation. Is that going to consist of underground pipes?
Yes, yeah. Just 2 or 3 inch pipes and some irrigation heads, all within the fenced-in area of the dog park.
And that would be tied into the water system?
Into the municipal system from the apartment complex itself.
Now, I think you do have some abutting neighbors around this area. The picture of
Yeah, not on the,
building or
yeah,
something?
that's on this side. Oh, sorry.
Up here.
Here, yeah.
Okay.
There's an existing apartment complex, yeah.
Does this require regrading?
No,
That is
it's
the grade.
rototilling it. It's pulling the trees and the shrubs and whatnot, and then rototilling the existing grades, and then just looming and seeding it.
Have you had somebody identify what's growing out there?
We have not identified.
It seems very, very wide open. You have a couple of trees saved
To remain,
here.
yeah.
Is there nothing worth saving in the?
Yeah, if you look at that photo, I forget. Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah. This is really the condition. If you look at it, it's all like 1 inch vines. It's really scrub brush and it's not a mature forested area.
So to be clear, the original plan that was approved had the stone
this
dust
path.
but no improvements outside
Right,
of the path.
exactly. That's correct.
And what you're proposing to do is to kind of quote-unquote clean up, improve within the fenced-in area, leaving the trees, but getting rid of kind of the,
Yeah, exactly.
and then also adding in a couple of sprinklers.
Sprinklers and actually, I should probably bring this up, lighting as well. We've had a number of trespassing to the point where we had to put it in security cameras during construction. This abuts the Lowell connector, and there's a lot of homeless people, and we've actually had them camped out in this area in the back. So,
Would you remind, what are the resource areas in addition to within the buffer zone of the,
yeah, it's a BVW.
that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the only,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, you've evaluated the trees that you have shown on the plan that you're leaving,
Yeah.
and they're all in fairly good health?
Yes, yeah. That's why we indicate those as remaining.
Well, I was concerned that you were doing a lot of regrading, but you're saying you're not. So-
Yeah.
But it is fairly steep just beyond there.
Yeah, that's why we picked the limit of work. If you look at that, that steep slope, so at that top of that slope is where we'll install the straw wattles, upgrading of that slope, which is 40 feet, 43 feet, I think, away from, or 34 feet away from the BBW edge in that location.
Okay, is there sufficient vegetation there, natural vegetation, to keep that from eroding after you've cleared the top area?
Yeah, it's goes back into this kind of scrub brush look. So that whole back area all the way to the property line is that scrub brush and whatnot. And we didn't plan on touching that because we didn't want to erode it and have to put erosion control matting on it on that steep slope or anything like that. That's why we kind of picked that top of slope as the limit of work.
And do you have some kind of a grass mix that's going to stand up to a lot of racing around dogs?
Yeah, I don't know what the grass mix is, but they've used it on some of their other projects, so.
Well, I'm happy to see some of the trees are being left, because I do remember that as a, fairly dense woodland there.
Yeah.
But the concern would be the edges, once it's cleared, that that steep slope doesn't start eroding.
Right.
It might be a good idea for us to request a couple trees along the border to replacements. I know that there aren't, large trees in this area, but we are taking a lot of small plants in some form or fashion that could come in the form of, young trees or shrub species.
That would actually make it more attractive if you covered up some of your chain link, probably here and there.
I think that if you put 2 trees in between each light pole, there's a couple places where there's a tree already. I just counted a nice 12 trees.
12 trees. Yeah.
We may argue that bushes would do a better job of stabilizing, especially earlier on.
Yeah, and I know a lot of projects are using native shrubs and things like that, rather than, something
Ornamental
brought in
trees or
from
whatever,
some
yeah.
foreign land. So we probably would like to see a proposal to that effect, as to what you propose to.
What type of trees?
To plant along the outer edge, particularly on the top of that steep slope.
I think the proponent would be willing to open to that. Obviously, I can't speak for him. He's not here tonight, but I'd be happy to get back to the board.
There's a lot of
let you
things
know.
that are very easy, that grow very easily, that, really do a good job, like even forsythia really kind of spreads and grabs the soil.
Yeah, I think we could easily trade the loss in stormwater compensation.
Yeah.
For some shrubs.
Patrick, how would we memorialize this? Would we be looking to amend the existing order of conditions for what's being discussed?
I think if we have,
Well, you could do it administratively as well.
I think this could be considered an insignificant change, as long as it's documented that
Yeah,
that it's an addendum to the plan.
sure.
I prefer that. And
Yeah.
I was just thinking to, if we would look at this project on its own merits, I'd be one that would be advocating for a -3 determination for an RDA, so I don't feel like the amount of work changes things to the point where a whole new notice of intent needs to be
Right.
done. So if we can handle that administratively, I'd prefer that as well.
Sure.
And I think we'd be willing to accept a condition that if we can plant, I don't know, 10 to 15 shrubs and tree combinations, we'd be willing to accept that condition. And we'll just submit that as a plan for the record.
I for one would defer to, as long, getting native species, that type of thing. I'm much more focused on the performance versus then being prescriptive, saying thou shalt do exactly this. I mean, give you some flexibility, but just make sure that it's species that, is native to the area and not some invasive.
And, yeah, we don't want invasives and.
Yeah, we have a landscape architect as part of the project team,
And
and
I think.
I'm not going to speak for him because I don't know the Latin names, never mind the common names.
I think
so.
it's a plus near a wetland area if you can put in something that has value for wildlife, some crab apples or something, and,
Milkweed for monarch butterflies and other pollinators.
It is a fenced-in area, though.
Yeah,
No, I don't mean little creepy crawlies, I mean like birds and.
Yeah, okay.
Pollinators.
Deer? No, you don't want to feed deer.
Anyway,
Okay, are there any other concerns? I think it's a doable project. I wouldn't want the disruption to last too long. What time of year were you planning to do this?
they're in building the building right now, so they're not really focused on this at this point.
So you wouldn't be clearing it before you're ready to actually
Right, yeah,
install?
until we act, right,
We wouldn't want
do
this
the work.
sitting bare for
Right.
too long.
And obviously, we'll install the erosion control prior to doing anything to clearly define the limits of work and so forth and so on.
So what's your sense? Is this like a few days' work or?
In total, it's probably 2 to 3 weeks, I would say,
3 weeks?
because the fence work alone and the lighting,
And
that trenching for the wires going to the light pole bases and so forth and so on, that takes some time, so,
Okay, well, there's certain times of year better for growing grass to
right.
be seeding, not sodding, right?
Yes, hydroseeding, most likely, yep.
Okay, well, you could have a motion that, to accept this as a addendum or an addition to the order of conditions. This was an area that wasn't proposed for development originally, except for the little picnic area there. And we have the plan that we can put into the file, and I think since it is it isn't a request for determination.
No.
Oh, okay.
We were hoping that the commission would handle it administratively.
Yeah, so with that, just to kind of document for the meeting, why don't I offer a motion, just so we can close it out, to say that we offer a motion to accept administratively the proponent's proposed changes to the existing project, and just ensure that it gets documented in the follow-up as-built plans when we're done and ready to close out the order of conditions.
And that we're waiting for a proposal about the landscaping
Yep.
within the area along the fence line.
So the commission would like to see a plan, ultimately, like, of proposed plantings?
A plan would be good, and a list of
Species.
proposed
Okay.
plantings.
It could be viewed, passed to us, but approved administratively by the planning department.
Okay.
So
I don't feel like
I
they need
thank
to
you
come
for that.
before- yeah, I don't feel like they need to come before us again, but,
Right. Okay.
so that's
Okay,
the first.
so we have was that a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second to accept the addendum. And also, that was a sort of a tack on to the end of the motion that we let the landscaping plan be submitted to the office, the Department of Planning Development Office. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Good luck with your project. You'll let Patrick have the large, did you get the large plan? Have Patrick for the file. Yeah. You want one of the small ones too, or? Okay. Okay, I'm guessing that perhaps your, the next item of interest to us here is 145 Pawtucket Street. Someone else is here. And this is a site plan change as well.
I'm sorry? Absolutely. There's two ones at PDF. One should be JPEG or photo. PDF should be on screen. So yes. And the other one will be that IMG 389 when necessary.
We're not,
No,
we're
I
just
understand
adding.
that, yeah,
oh.
yeah. I want to ask you about clarification later, but I think I had misunderstood something before.
Okay, welcome. We have, since this is a site plan change, that's all we have on our agenda, so if you could introduce yourself, please.
I'd be happy to.
Better? Did you,
You just got to tap it and it'll, if the green light's on, then you're all good.
Thank you.
or you could stand at the podium if you don't have a plan to put up, if that's
I
easier.
don't. The podium would be great.
Or if you want to stand closer to the TV, that would be good.
Thank you. I don't want to blow your ears out, though, either. My name is Skip Medford. I represent Boot Hydropower here tonight. And I'm here as an update to an order of conditions that the Commission issued last summer. We appreciate that. It was 206-0781. And concerned rock removal in the tail race of the hydroelectric project at 145 Pawtucket. The area is depicted in a plan view here on the screen. I'm here to entertain questions, but there's been some updates that we want to make you aware of. We haven't started construction, but we do anticipate construction on the ledge removal beginning in July. So there's a couple of variables that could come into play, and that's what I'm here to brief you on. And while the ledge removal order from last year, remains valid, there are some other land area impacts that could be in play in July, and we want to make you aware and take any steps necessary to get prior approval before that time. Okay.
Just a real quick question, just as a 30-second refresher. The purpose of the ledge removal in connection with the dam, what was it, to increase flow or,
Okay. There is a lot of history here, but because the dam represents a barrier to upstream fish passage in the river, we are required by federal and state agencies to provide effective fish passage.
Okay.
In this case, upstream. We have a fish lift at the powerhouse in the bottom of the screen, which is essentially an elevator, which operates from May 1st to July 15th annually to lift fish up to the head pond level from which they can swim up to School Street underneath the gatehouse and then continue their upriver migration. Some fish can swim up the bypass reach, which is on the left of our screen over here.
Right.
And they can swim up to School Street volitionally and pass at the fish ladder. I was last here in about this time last year, seeking approval to remove an overhanging tree at the fish ladder.
That was the one that was further upstream, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is down right near UMass Lowell and the dormitories there.
Correct. And the difference, that's important to recognize is the one up at the ladder is a lift. The one up at the dam on Varnum Ave is a ladder.
Right.
So it operates continuously, and no interaction or passage mechanisms are needed to pass fish. The one at the lift is I use these words because I come across them so frequently. The one at the powerhouse is an actual fish lift.
Got it.
So, mechanically and electrically and pneumatically, we operate an elevator for fish at that location.
It's a fish escalator.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. So there have been some problems recognized at the fish lift and at the powerhouse for passage, and this ledge removal was desired by a number of fishery natural resource agencies over several years to improve passage. This ledge removal was something that we conceptualized in 2015, 2016, and finally agreed to. But it's been a long overdue. Its primary purpose is improve fish passage. You can't see it in this photo. I'm not sure when Google took the image, but the ledge extends out and doesn't offer fish a straight shot into the fishway entrance from which they would be lifted. So it's removing an outcropping of rock. Yeah. All right. So we have, as an update, I don't think we have any official standing here because we're not seeking to alter the prior order, nor are we seeking any new conditions or a determination or anything, if that's allowed.
Yeah, we're looking forward to an update.
Okay. We have established a schedule of July 1st to September 30th for this work to be done. We have gone to contractors, and they are in several different rounds. They are presently bidding on the project, and we will receive their bids in late May, which will include how they propose to accomplish the ledge removal, their price, their safety record, their insurance, and every other pertinent detail that we seek to get the job done. While we initially imagined that contractors would lift by use of a crane their equipment from the parking lot here out to the waterway and barge it over to where it's needed over here. We're aware that some contractors may propose to us that, hey, there's another cheaper, better, more effective access to the tail race, and that could be any one of a number of things. But one that has come to our attention is this area right here, which we've termed a shelf, but it's not our property. We believe it belongs to UMass, and it's behind their dorm. So I've outlined in red here the potential access route to this area, and highlighted with the surrounding red lines how a contractor could get into the tail race. And because it's land bordering a river, I'm not sure if it's subject to floodplain based on elevation or not, but that's an area that we may find out from a contractor that they would prefer to use to get in the tail race most effectively. And this is where, we realize that the Conservation Commission has an interest and perhaps even history with UMass, The university seems to have been using the area here as a little bit of a spoils area for their lawn or yard waste.
We actually just talked about it a few meetings ago, and UMass came before us and put up a no dumping sign because they were putting clippings and things in the embankment area, and the concern was that eroding down into the river. And then there was a combination between Mill City Grows and UMass Lowell Community, because they just put the greenhouse behind that area as well.
Okay.
So there's a lot of history there.
Okay, and we've tried to be cognizant of that, and we have asked our contractors in their preparation of bids for the work that if they propose to use that area, that they need to approach UMass themselves. You know, NL does not want to get in the middle of contractors and anybody else in their dealings with UMass, if such becomes necessary. You know, we could have every contractor, when we receive their bids, say, you know what, we're going to lift all our equipment in from the powerhouse, and there'll be no natural resource impact beyond the order approved last summer. So the update is we hope to start work, and contractors may use this, at which time, may propose to use that, at which time we would work with UMass. Try to facilitate it, but not get in the middle of it.
I think we'd want to hear from the contractor or have a second update if that were to happen.
Yeah, and
It's kind of a totally different process.
yep, and we realize we're not the landowner for this area. And any arrangements the contractor would make with UMass would be subject to your jurisdiction for that area. So we wanted to prime the pump if in a month we seek to come back, or UMass does, and say, hey, we'd like to access the area, what do we need to do? And we're happy to hear any recommendations. Jared and Patrick, you know, thankfully have made your schedule and your agenda items available to me, so it's very critical for us to maintain the timeliness of when you meet.
My sense is, just thinking aloud here, I mean, it's just very vegetated back there. You have an existing order conditions. I'm sure it's had things about erosions and sedimentation control for your project. I think the expectation would be that if there's work that's done outside of your property, but also has the potential for erosion issues, that would be addressed by the contractor, and perhaps it could be addressed through a RDA and not have to go through a notice of intent. I just think, you know, you would want to have that conversation with your contractor and UMass Lowell to make sure that whatever is done, it's a controlled project that doesn't allow erosion and any sort of, you know, tree debris or anything like that to go into the river.
Yeah, and, you know, we're not, you know, working on the river and in hydropower projects across the U.S., we're not strangers to it,
Right.
to those requirements and their importance. The contractor in UMass might be a little less familiar. So we would, if they desire to use it and it turns out to be somewhat feasible, you know, we might assist them and have recommendations, but they would likely, I'm thinking, be the ones to appear before the commission in May, June. Okay. Patrick, do you have the other photo? Excuse me, the photo. IMG something. There we go. This photo was taken in January of this year, and it's a view looking upstream, so the dorm's on the left, the river's on the right. There's a steep slope right here, maybe 12 to 15 feet high, and there's another smaller slope over here behind this exclusion fence, which then leads straight to the river. The proximity to the river and the height difference there could make it a good construction alternative for barges. And this area then is just upstream of the UMass spoil pile, you know, by several hundred feet. Certainly it would have to be delineated, and I'm a biologist and not a botanist. So the trees and vegetation there are unfamiliar to me. But it looked like it had been disturbed before. So it looks fairly level here, although it does slope slightly towards the river.
So would equipment be working from the bank, or are you still talking about barges, but launching them from that point?
Yeah, equipment would only, this area would only be a launch point to barge heavy equipment over to the opposite shore of what we call the tail race, the downstream area of the plant, where the rock ledge removal actually has to occur. So it's, even the crane, if we were to install it on the powerhouse roof, would only be able to lift equipment to barges in the waterway. And the size of the crane would be tremendous. So, having it on site for 3 months is fairly costly. I'm not sure if this would provide a suitable access point or if any contractors would elect to use it.
So are you proposing this, or are you hoping that a contractor comes up with a proposal that is an alternative to what you originally proposed?
I think let me clarify if I'm hearing you correctly. I think our original proposal was just for rock ledge removal.
Right.
Right. No change proposed there. That's occurring on the far right bank of the tail race, looking at that view. No change to that. We're still doing the same amount, same extent, and things like that. Naturally, since we're going to be footing the bill for this rock ledge removal, I think our hope is we would be able to choose the contractor who offers the least cost alternative. If that least cost turns out to be a crane mounted on the powerhouse roof or its parking lot, then there's no additional permitting needed.
Right.
If the least cost proposal was substantially less and proposed this access point, that's our incentive to perhaps see if that's feasible as an access. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to be responsive to your question.
Contractor is going to be a major part of the proposal, then, what they think they can do.
Absolutely, and we've solicited several contractors and opened the field to them for best method, how you can complete it on time, safety record. Even this is going to be part of our evaluation for which contractor we choose. Yeah.
Is there or is there not a proposal to extend the Riverwalk up through this area?
I thought the Riverwalk is already done in that area. I think the proposal was down towards the, to connect with the Concord River Greenway and down the other end, near the, what's the name of the, I'm blanking on the name of the hall, the function hall, the old, with the columns.
So there's nothing proposed
No.
that we know of?
It's already constructed. There's already the walkway up there. And I think what I'm hearing from what you're saying is, you already got a proposal out there on the spec on what you want to do. It really depends on how the contractor come out with the how to do it, the method, like you said, and that may mean, work on property other than property you own, and you need to coordinate with UMass Lowell if that's the case. But at this point, it's just an FYI.
Correct. And that's why, the best thing we could term this tonight, and my efforts are an update.
Okay. And I think I'd agree with the chair that once that's determined, if it, to give us an update, and if it looks like it's your original, kind of still your own property, then I don't think there's a need to come before you. But if there is that deviation on, or expectation on how it's gonna get done, then I think we'd like to just hear, what measures are gonna be put in place to ensure that the resource isn't impacted.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that our original application and your order contemplated any natural resource impact on this side, the dorm side of the riverbed. And certainly we only own a little bit of that.
I think we're not so much concerned with who owns it as to how are we going to protect it.
Sure,
So,
sure.
you know,
Understandable.
It's up to you to make some kind of arrangement with a landowner if it's not yourself, so.
Yep,
And,
Yep.
but then we want to know what are we going to protect and how are you going to do it?
yeah, no, absolutely, and recognizing your concerns, which, you know, we try to do as we're contemplating this big project is why I'm here, because looking at your schedule and our proposed schedule, things are gonna be tight. If a contractor comes to
Still
us.
thinking of July this year, then? for-
Yes,
to Start the project.
yes.
So you have 3 meetings, the second one in May and then 2 in June.
Uh-huh. Yep, it's not lost on me, and my whole team's gonna be aware of
When are
it.
your proposals due? Soon?
Your next meeting is,
May 22nd.
that's, unfortunately, our proposals are due May 22nd, back to us. So,
No, you'll be doing that day.
I'm hoping to take the day off and somebody else can evaluate those. But yes, that is a very tight timeline.
We do have a rather large project that night, so.
Okay,
We already look forward to it being a marathon meeting.
okay. And maybe then, you know, we go into June. I don't think that with our proposals due back to us the 22nd, that evening is feasible for us. Especially if, you know, we have to corral the contractor and the school,
Yeah,
right,
that's a week's notice.
right.
Okay, well,
Anytime. Thanks for the update.
we work year-round, so.
Right,
I know you do want to do this in the summer, and
Yeah. yeah.
certainly the August is a good time, too, so.
Yeah, the timing is very convoluted with FERC relicensing and fishery studies that need to be conducted and things like that, but this improvement's long overdue.
Well, keep us informed, and,
Yeah, like on your website, is that, yeah. I'm gonna take that, distribute it straight to our team, and hopefully see what the contractors say about that area. But we certainly want to work with you for a best outcome if they decide that that's their best access point. Thank you for
okay,
your
well, we
time.
appreciate the heads up, and
Coming in.
good
Very
luck
good.
with getting your proposals in.
We're looking forward to it, and I'll be in touch if anything is needed business-wise, but we may bring in other parties as well, including UMass. All
Okay,
right, thank you all. That would be great.
Looks like we're not going to have anybody
Yeah, just,
but you to testify.
but
We do have a
couple more other businesses.
couple more other business items here. We'll just let Patrick get organized. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Do we have an update on Thorndike Street, Patrick?
So I guess the cleanup has taken a little longer than originally expected. I think we thought that it would be done by this time. So we're just gonna put it on the next agenda, if that's okay.
All right.
Yep.
And let's see, the Concord River Greenway is starting their pedestrian bridge, I guess. Can you?
Yeah,
Tell
they're
us
starting the
about that.
licensing for it anyways, the Chapter 91 licensing with DEP. This is part of the Concord River Greenway project that got approved a few months back. They received their order of conditions, and this is just the additional licensing needed for the bridges specifically over the river.
Yeah, it's the part near Bridge Street and And Nick, going towards the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, that area?
No, I think
No,
it's the
it's-
next bridge up, not
Yeah.
Rogers. What's
It's two bridges, one behind Lawrence Street, 850 Lawrence Street. There's like a mill building that's being
Yeah.
converted. And then there's one that's,
Church Street is on one side, and
yeah,
So this is further away from downtown?
Yes.
I
I
guess
got,
it's Andover Street,
I got you.
actually.
yeah.
I got you. Well, it'd be nice when that project's finished, huh? Connecting the two walkways.
Yeah, it'll be great.
All right, we are going backwards in time here to our first, the first project we announced. And I'll announce it again. It's a request for determination of applicability for a project at 52 Lawrence Drive and 35 Riverwalk Way, put forward by Renaissance on the River Condominium Association. We do have plans, and I believe we can deal with this tonight. It's a repaving project of walkways, not parking lots, not anything larger than, what are the walkways, maybe 10 feet wide at the
Yeah.
most.
It's not a significant project.
Bill, I know you're in a butter, but if you could explain the project, you probably do as good a job as the proponent.
Before I stand up there. No, what I do know is that, the parking lot and the walkways out there, they get used a lot, and in the winter with the plowing, just wear and tear. And this is just a maintenance type project where, no new construction. It's basically replacing the existing concrete walks and curbs with new walkways and curbs, because the concrete is cracked and eroding away. And it is obviously within border land subject to flooding, the 100-foot buffer zone along the Merrimack. I will point out, it's similar to the canals that it's abuts the Merrimack River, the river walkway. And so I think the only time that area ever flooded, the last time it did was the Mother's Day storm in 2009. The water from the Merrimack overtopped and went into the parking lot. So I view this is a project that's, within jurisdiction of the commission, but probably would be one that where the impact is minimal, and therefore a -3 determination would probably be appropriate. But I'll let others decide that, and I'll vote accordingly.
Okay, they do plan to remove all of the old material immediately, according to the information we have here. Nothing stored on site, and I guess it's going to be replaced with concrete, is that
Correct.
not asphalt?
No.
So, I don't know how long something like this would take, whether, I'm assuming there's gonna be a lot of, disturbance there for a while until they get it all removed and then could replace it, although it isn't continuous.
Yeah.
It
Well,
seems to be different areas here and there.
Yeah, it's along the entrances, and, the main entrances and the side entrances. And so when they talk about walkway, we're not talking about like the river walkway behind the building. We're talking about the walkways, leading into the front and side entrances of the building. If I was to speculate, I'd guess it's probably not more than, a 1 to 2 week project, but I'd have to look at the proposal to see.
I don't see, I don't know why they would need to remove any trees or anything.
No.
2 days out, 2 days in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's totally reasonable that they would just chip and load it directly into the cup.
Yeah, there's certainly the space to kind of stage a truck to take the debris off site.
Well, certainly if you're ordering cement, you order a truckload, you don't do one little block at a time. So,
Not in today's day.
We've had an opinion expressed that perhaps this is something that's doable with a -3. Somebody want to make a motion to to that effect?
I make a motion to grant -3 designation. Termination.
Okay.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. I think the plans are pretty straightforward, and we would expect them to follow the plans as submitted. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That, I think that passes. Do we need four votes?
You need 4.
Mhm. Aye.
Okay. Phil's in a butter, but.
Well, that's,
But
well, you tell me.
I,
Yeah, and frankly, that's why I didn't, offer the motion. I gave an opinion.
Sure.
So to meet the quorum, I have no problem with voting. I think I can be objective.
sure. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you for stating.
Yeah.
If there's any problem, we can have one of the other members that's absent tonight look at the tape and
Great suggestion.
vote for that. That's the end of the agenda as I see it. Is there anything else, Patrick?
Nope, that should be it. That's all.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded by?
I'll second. Oh,
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
aye.
Thank you and good night.
And go Celtics and go Bruins.